Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Legalese. That's my legal presentation that I do weekly, where I discuss legal topics and practical topics that are relevant to what I do, which is represent people that have been injured in motor vehicle accidents. This evening is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about personal bodily injury, physical injury to a human being. I'm going to talk about property damage. Now, property damage claims commonly accompany personal injury claims. However, typically speaking, most of the time the client themselves will deal with the insurance company for the purpose of property damage, and the attorney, like myself, will help or get involved when necessary if there's an issue. But for the most part, the property damage process goes fairly smoothly. And in my opinion, it's one of the things that the insurance companies actually get close to right. You know, their valuing of the car, the Kelley Blue Book, and their evaluation of the vehicle's value and reimbursement value. But notwithstanding, a property damage case is a very important aspect of a damage case. So you've been involved in an accident and you've got damage to your vehicle. So what do you do? Well, generally you have two options with regard to how to have your car taken care of. Now, it may be a situation where your car is fixable and it's worth it to do that, or there may be a situation where your car becomes a total loss. It happens a lot of the time. But when you've taken out a policy of auto insurance, whether you're the person who has had their vehicle damaged or the person who damages someone else's vehicle, you're going to have coverage in place either way. So if you take out an auto policy in the state of Florida, it necessarily has to have $10,000 minimum of property damage. That's mandatory according to Florida statutes. So if somebody were to rear end you or T-bone you and is at fault in causing a motor vehicle accident, and they carry a policy of automobile insurance that's valid, then they're going to have at least $10,000 of property damage liability. Now, that's the minimum, and I would always encourage people when they're taking out policies to maybe consider carrying a little more. Have a recent incident where a client of mine was struck by a vehicle that then flipped over and not only smashed the front of my client's car, but also smashed a Maserati. The whole front of the Maserati was scratched up and dented, and $10,000 in property damage is not going to do that. It's not going to cover the damage for my client's car or the Maserati. So in order to protect oneself, you want to make sure you carry more than $10,000 in property damage in case something a little more serious or expensive were to happen. So hopefully, when you take your own policy of insurance out, you're carrying collision coverage for your own car in case you're not at fault. So if the at-fault driver has the minimum of $10,000 and you need more than that to fix your car, your Ferrari or your Lamborghini or your Volkswagen, hopefully you're carrying collision liability in case the other driver doesn't have enough coverage. Then you would fall back on your own insurance company's collision coverage. Of course, you would incur a deductible, but that really isn't so bad. It's inconvenient at first to have to come out of pocket $500 or so, but eventually your insurance company will proceed against the at-fault driver's insurance company, what's called a subrogation claim, and they will get that money back for you, your deductible. So that is those are the two options as far as getting a vehicle repaired is concerned. You can either go through the other side's property damage liability, or you can go through your own. If you go through the other side's liability, if they have enough coverage, then you won't have to incur a deductible. If you were to go through your own, you'll probably have to incur the deductible, but you will likely get that back later. So you get involved in the accident. The other driver's insurance company is probably trying to contact you to talk to you and ask you all kinds of questions. How are you doing? How do you feel? Are you injured? And whenever you're asked those questions by the other driver's insurance company, or even your own insurance company, but particularly other drivers, indicate to them, I've been advised not to discuss my physical condition. However, we can talk about the damage to my car. Are you going to fix my car? So typically, the other side driver's insurance company to try to get a hold of you. Now, understand, you have no contract, you have no obligation to talk to the other driver's insurance company. You're not in privity of contract with them. You don't have a policy with them. This person caused damage to your car and possibly damage to you. Don't talk to them about your injuries. Refer them to your attorney, and hopefully your attorney will allow them to deal directly with you on property damage. It makes it easier. But never discuss anything with the other driver's insurance company until you've consulted with a lawyer, except for maybe property damage. But still, ask your lawyer first. That's a good idea. Another important thing is they may want you to take your car. The other driver's insurance company may have, or even your own company, may have repair shops that they like to work with. Companies like Geico and Progressive, they like to work with companies, some of them locally, like Jerry Ohm. Take your car into this dealership, and the adjuster will, assess the damage to the vehicle and write out an estimate. Now that's all fine and dandy, and you may have to do that as a matter of course to get them to be in a position where they can deal with the car and make an estimate. However, the law in Florida says that you have your car fixed wherever you choose. So you choose the shop, not the insurance company. In the words of my good friend Greg Jerkowski at Primo Auto Collision, that's the law. So you choose the shop, not the insurance company, although you may have to get an initial estimate. So insurance companies take you to these shops, and the shops examine your car. They produce an estimate. And sometimes it's just convenient because, well, my car's there. I'm just going to let them fix it. Well, those shops, at least in my experience, don't do the greatest job of finding everything damaged about the car. I don't think they're good enough detectives. And they may have a motivation not to. They're getting them quick in and quick out, and it may not be in your best interest. One of the companies that I like to use in town and suggest to my clients is called Primo Auto Collision. It's owned by my friend Greg Jerkowski, who does a fantastic job with the cars. It's located on South McDill, but he's an example of a private shop that takes the car apart, finds everything wrong with it, and does a fantastic job of getting it back together again for the client and fixing it to factory specifications, and that's what you want. And the process is going to be a little bit involved. You're going to have to probably, in the case of a total vehicle, sign title over to the insurance company. So you want your attorney to go over any documents that have to do with that. This is just meant to be a primer on personal on damage, property damage, not a full detailed dissertation. But you're going to get some documents, mileage documents, odometer readings, title documents, and if you don't understand them, bring them to your lawyer. Let him look at them. We're always happy to help. We don't often get involved, if unnecessarily involved in property damage, but there are times when it is important for us to do that, and we like to. One of the reasons you may also want to go to a private shop and have them done is because it's rumored that the insurance company shops tend to like to fix the cars as inexpensively as possible, which means they may decide to use aftermarket parts on the car. So aftermarket parts are going to be parts that are rebuilt from used parts. And if you don't want you rebuilt from used parts in your car, you don't have to have them. Take them to a private shop that doesn't use aftermarket parts, that'll fix the car to factory specifications. And I think you'll be much happier, and you'll also preserve your warranties if you have any for your vehicles. The interesting thing about property damage is it's often, in the eyes of adjusters and insurance defense attorneys, something that they equate with physical damage to the human being, which is may sound like it makes sense. Well, there's not a lot of damage to the car, then there must not be damage to the human. And that really scientifically is not a supported argument at all. In fact, there are times when the damage to the vehicle may seem minimal. However, the damage to the occupant of the vehicle may be severe. And one of the reasons is your vehicle is made to crumple. It has crumple zones. If you're struck on your rear bumper by a hard impact, your vehicle will crumble in. That's part of the shock absorbing characteristic of your car. And if the vehicle is absorbing the shock, it means the occupant of the vehicle is not. But there are certain situations where the damage to the vehicle may not appear to be too severe from the outside, but the fact of the matter is there may have been frame-on-frame contact between the vehicles. I'm going to do a little show and tell with you right now, and I love this. This is what I like to call a smoking gun. You all see this? This is a trailer hitch from a client's vehicle in a case that we settled not too long ago. Now, when you look at the photographs of the vehicles, you don't see a lot of damage. In fact, there's really no damage to his fender, his bumper, or his tailgate. The damage to the vehicle that struck him is simply a hole in the front of their grill. But what had happened was the car's grill had hit the trailer hitch, and this trailer hitch used to be straight like this. It struck it. The frame of the car in the rear made contact with this trailer hitch with enough force to bend it like this. Now, a lot of the time we argue over how much property damage is done. We hire forensic engineers. They take a look at the cars and they say, well, based upon the amount of damage to the bumper, based upon the amount of damage to the frame, we can extrapolate that the vehicle was traveling at such and such a speed, and so forth. The beauty of this is, and this is not attractive, but when you have the actual metal bent in this manner, a forensic engineer, all he needs to know is what it's made of. And he can tell you exactly how hard this was hit and what force it would have taken to bend this. I mean, look at this. This is steel that is a ½ inch thick, and it's bent practically on a 70-degree angle. So this person was hit very, very hard, and it reflected in their medical bills and in their medical diagnosis. So property damage, and if you're only looking at this in the back of the car as being bent, you're probably going to think, oh, well, not a lot happened. Well, unfortunately, frame-on-frame contact meant that the lack of crumbling of the vehicle itself, and rather just the bending of the metal, all of that force was transferred to the frame of the car and to the person in the car, my former client, who was injured actually pretty badly in this accident, even though there did not appear to be a lot of property damage. So this is just kind of a neat little thing. A little show and tell is always fun, but this is a pretty heavy steel tailgate, and it got a trailer hitch, and it got hit pretty hard to make this happen. So now this is just going to be short. I really don't have a lot more to say about the subject, but take the property damage issues very, very seriously. Make sure that you take your vehicle to a reputable dealer to have, or a reputable shop to have it repaired. You can have it estimated by the insurance companies at one of their shops. However, when it comes down to actually getting your vehicle fixed and getting it back to the shape it needs to be in, to make it as up to factory specs, to make it as good as new, to preserve its warranties, you probably want to go with somebody that's going to be a little better and do more. Like I said, I like to use Primo Auto Collision on South McDill Avenue. Greg Jerkowski is a great technician when it comes to putting cars back together. His staff is fantastic, and they do a fantastic job. That's it. So that's just a little primer on property damage. Remember, you choose the shop, not the insurance company, and that's the law, as my friend Greg Jerkowski likes to say. But thank you very much, folks. And if you liked what you saw here today, please like, share, or comment below. And please join me next week, where we're going to get into detail about insurance coverages that you need to have on your vehicle, in particular uninsured motorist coverage, and why it is so dangerous and why people waive it, which they shouldn't do. And I will have a guest next week, so please tune in. And thank you very much for watching my show this evening. Take care.